Welcome into No Pun Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo, and we have another amazing show this week talking Vikings, Texans, and the Seattle Seahawks. We're getting near the end of our team previews so far, and we only have a couple more shows left. Joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson, and if you're new to listening to us, Ryan Weiss, who just recently joined the show, I think about a month ago now at this point, right, Ryan?
I've been doing all the previews, but I think it was official about a month ago, yeah.
So Ryan joins us, and for the third time back on the show, second time by himself, the last time he was with Tommy Garrett with PFN, the one, the only, Jon Helmkamp, Dynasty Beard. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I can't complain. Josh,
I might have to send Tommy the link a little later in the show just to
get
we
him
got to
here.
keep continuity, you know?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I saw that Tommy was tweeting about listening to like some early 90s gangster rap about like 30 minutes ago, and he was like, I didn't know it was time to drink, but apparently here we are. So he's probably in a pretty
to get him on the show at this.
Oh yeah, he's probably in a good mood right now if you wanted to hit him up.
I wonder if he was doing the Snoop versus DMX versus that was going on. So
I think he did that earlier, and then he was going to like, I think I saw some Gangsta's Paradise Lost. There's all kinds of good stuff.
He has already typed in on the Periscope chat. He is here, and he is surprisingly fine, according to his comment.
Surprisingly fine.
Yes, and to add to the 90s gangster rap, I didn't know that The Chronic is available on Spotify now, and I just found out that Ain't Nothing But a G Thing is on there now.
Yes, that's what he was rocking with earlier, too.
Oh, my God, that's a top 5 song in the 90s. It's not even a question. Oh,
as the kids say, it slaps.
It slaps, yes.
Slaps so
you know what? Since John, you brought it up, Nimble with Numbers asked Biggie or Tupac, and Josh already responded for the Club Fantasy Twitter handle. Josh, you say Tupac.
Yep. Give me all the Tupac.
John?
Yeah, I'm Team Tupac on that as well. But I love them both. I know that's like not the thing to say, or it's like you have to be adamantly for one or the other, because it's West Coast versus East Coast and all that ish, but they're both great. But I'd lean Tupac. That's where I'd go.
Ryan?
Definitely Tupac. Not even close for me.
Wow. We're opening with a would you rather.
Yeah, we are.
Oh my God. What a good show already. All right. So as I said, we're getting into the Vikings, the Texans, and John Seahawks, which, as you can see, if you're watching the live recording right now, you see John's nice Seattle Seahawks banner behind him right there. I am repping the Marshawn Lynch Beast Mode jersey, paying homage to our buddy John here, and to one of my favorite running backs ever, because how can you hate Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. You can't hate Marshawn Lynch. But we're going to start here with the Minnesota Vikings, and if you're new to the show, how we're going to run through all of these team previews is we will be doing the upside, downside, trust fall, and rookies to watch for Josh and Ryan. Then I will introduce my sleeper and IDP, and then we're going to focus in on one of these guys from each team, whether they be a controversy within the fantasy football community or differing opinions from our analysts here on the show. So we'll start here with the Minnesota Vikings. Starting with the upside, Josh, you have Kyle Rudolph. Ryan, you have Adam Thielen. Downside, Josh, you have Adam Thielen. Guess who we're going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen?
Interesting.
Ryan, you have Justin Jefferson. Trust fall, you both have Dalvin Cook. Rookie to watch, you both have Justin Jefferson. My sleeper, I have Alexander Madison. For the record, if Josh did not pick Kyle Rudolph, I would have slapped Kyle Rudolph all over my sleeper because he's wildly underrated, I think. I haven't checked his ADP recently, Josh. I don't know if you know it offhand.
I'm checking right now, actually.
But, okay, it's tight end 26.
Yeah, it's low. I know it's really low.
He's being drafted after, like, Ian Tom. He's in the same sentence as Jay Sternberger, and that should not that shouldn't happen. So I would put Rudolph there, but I like Madison simply because he feels to me just like a Dalvin Cook 2.0, just watered down. He's like Target brand Dalvin Cook. So I think if Cook, gets hurt for a couple games, I think Madison can easily fill in. The IDP, I have Harrison Smith. Absolute baller, has been one of the best safeties in the league for a while now. Hard hitter, can do everything across the field. Absolutely love him. But we will start here with the show on Adam Thielen. So Ryan, as I said, you like him. Josh, you don't like him. John, I'll let you start this off here. What do you feel on Adam Thielen heading into 2020?
Yeah, Adam Thielen. Are we redraft focused right now? Is this dynasty?
Yes.
What are we?
Redraft.
This is
Redraft. Okay, so redraft. I like Adam Thielen, and I like him just fine. I'm not in love with him, but he's going right now, according to Fantasy Football Calculator, at the 4.09. That's some really good value for someone that I think has the potential of flirting with top 12. With no more Stephon Diggs there in that offense. Potentially a Dalvin Cook holdout situation kind of looming. We're waiting to see what happens with that. I think Thielen is probably going to see his career high in targets this year. And I think that he's going to get absolutely peppered. So I think he's got a really good opportunity. As long as he can stay on the field for a full 16, I think he's got a really good opportunity to hover between like wide receiver 15 and wide receiver 10. He could finish anywhere in that range, in my opinion.
Staying on the positivity train, I'll toss it over to Ryan to just kind of continue before we get to the depressing side of whatever Josh has to say. Ryan, why do you like Thielen heading
John
into
hit
this
on
year?
the points I like. I was actually doing some research on this for an article. In games where either Thielen or Stephon Diggs missed the game, so there was a clear-cut wide receiver one, the other guy averaged 8 targets and a 25% target share in those games. So even if there's fewer pass attempts, which I think those pass attempts are going to go up this year, I think he's looking at a great target floor on top of everything. I think you're looking at like 120 target floor with a ceiling, just like John said. He was targeted, I think, 147 times 2 years ago. I think that's about what we're looking at for his ceiling, and he was wide receiver 8 that year. So I think he is a guy with top 10 potential. The OC is going to help that situation. You've already brought up the holdout. They're going to run a ton of 2 tight end sets. So it's really going to be a question of, is Jefferson going to get on the field right away with no preseason, or is BC Johnson, who knows the offense, going to play? It's going to be one or the other. It's not going to be both. And then with the vacated targets, we've seen a lot of that go to the running backs. Do they throw to the running backs more? So, but the thing is, the one constant in all of that for me is Thielen. And like John brought up, if you're grabbing him in the 4th round, on Fantasy Pros, they're showing him starting to creep up to the 3rd round a little bit. I'm still okay with it because you're getting a guy who's going to get you what you pay for with potential to outplay that.
So for me, I'm going to be completely honest. This is a very biased opinion on Adam Thielen. It's not so much stats driven for me for why I don't like him, because I see the upside. Like, I have him projected for 129 targets. He's my wide receiver 13. So it's not like I'm, down on him. But when you're creeping into your 30s and you're now starting to deal with soft tissue injuries, I mean, he missed 6 games last year, left 2 others early. Those types of things, they don't just go away. Like, soft tissue injuries, they just stay around. And John, working with Betts, who is, a physical therapist, he's all about this stuff. His whole entire section on Thielen in the Ballers Ultimate Draft Kit basically summed up as this: research indicates that older players are more likely to sustain an additional injury than younger players, with the risk increases 1.3 times per year each year of age. He's starting next year, this coming season, at age 30. Yes, he's going to be the target guy, but at 30 years old, there's a reason that you go out and draft Justin Jefferson, and it's not just because you traded Stephon Diggs. You need somebody that's going to be able to come in there and be that number one guy. I agree. Jefferson's not going to be that this year, especially with where this whole entire offseason has been because of COVID-19. But I just think that when you're looking at some of those guys in the top 10, top 15, top 20, he represents a greater risk, which is why I would fade him when I'm looking in my drafts in that 3rd, 4th, 5th round for a wide receiver.
I hear what you're saying, but according to Fantasy Football Calculator, he's going as the wide receiver 22 now.
That's a lot lower than what he's at on
Fantasy
Pros has him
Pros.
at 14.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's a huge discrepancy. Let me check.
No offense to Calculator. Calculator's been very crazy this offseason.
Interesting. Okay. Where are you guys using so that I can look at the same numbers as you guys?
Fantasy Pros.
Fantasy Pros ADP. Yeah.
Let me pull that up so that we're on the same page.
Yeah, his PPR ranks right now, he's wide receiver 14. He's going Two spots below Juju, 2 spots above AJ Brown. Like that's kind of that window where he's at.
Getting there, that starts to get a little expensive for my liking. I don't know that I would be buying him there because I think you are buying him at that point
at a ceiling,
pretty close to his ceiling. Yeah. He might finish a couple spots higher than that, maybe. But at that point, I always like looking for value. And if you're saying that a 30-year-old wide receiver is going at his potential ceiling without any injury risk baked in, I don't like that. So that's probably I'd lean a different direction.
I'll agree with that. I feel like, though, doing these shows for over a month now, I feel like we've been saying that about every 3rd, 4th, and 5th round wide receiver where we're like, I'll just wait. There's just so much value at wide receiver this year. So.
It's true, though. I do want to give a quick shout out to one of our writers, Chris Molina. He just put up a piece on Tuesday where he was essentially talking about the same thing with Adam Thielen. Everybody's talking about the potential upside for the wide receiver 1 in this run-heavy offense, but nobody's really dissecting what could potentially be that downside. So if you want, check that out, www.clubfantasyffl.com.
One thing I do want to throw on, and it's still going to be a run-heavy offense. It's still mainly the same people there. Kubiak was there last year, but Kubiak threw the ball a lot more when he was in Denver. And I'm interested to see with all of this guaranteed money going Cousins' way if they're going to try to unleash him a little bit. So
I think we've seen, though, when Cousins has to throw a ton, the team doesn't always win as much.
Yeah.
So
can we also?
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way.
Can we just point out that Cooper Kupp is going 1 spot behind him?
Now that's ridiculous.
Like give me Cooper Kupp 10 times out of 10 in that. That's not even close.
So John, guess what we're gonna do?
I was gonna say this seems really.
It's would you rather? I mean, this settles
a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Exactly. It settles every debate we've ever had on this show. Is would you rather? So in this instance, Jonathan every time. So in this instance,
always and forever, Jonathan Taylor.
I'm sure Jonathan Taylor might pop up because I think David Johnson may be going in the same area as him, so we may get some JT talk a little later. But for this point here, you're drafting a wide receiver 2.
Okay.
A wide receiver 2. So this guy is going as your wide receiver 2. Adam Thielen is currently wide receiver 14, according to fantasypros.com. I'm going to start with the wide receiver 12, just because that's the cusp of a wide receiver 1. Would you rather have Juju Smith-Schuster or Adam Thielen as your wide receiver 2? John, we'll start with you.
Juju.
Josh.
I would take Thielen. I'm very down on Juju this year.
Ryan.
It's so close, but I think I'd go Thielen.
I would go Thielen too. I can't see past.
All right. Good to see you guys.
Bye, John. So John, I can't see past that fat ass Ben Roethlisberger sitting behind center.
Whoa. He's looking very svelte. Have you seen the pictures that have been making their rounds?
Dude, he's gone way above dad bod at this point.
Oh, yeah.
No. He actually, I'm not even being facetious. There's a recent picture making the rounds of him looking pretty trim. I think that he's been putting the work in the last couple months. I know he was looking like Matt Patricia over the offseason. Like, I get it.
Oh, yeah.
But he's looking okay. There's a video of him doing a little like PSA through the Steelers community relations Twitter account this morning, 13 hours ago. And man, he looks like he's probably dropped like 20 pounds this offseason. But listen, if you have a healthy Ben Roethlisberger coming back, okay, thanks, Tommy. One up me always. Appreciate it. If you have Ben Roethlisberger coming back and his arm is healthy and he's good to go and he's back in that offense, I think it's fair to basically just take last year's Pittsburgh offense, crumple it up in a ball, throw it out, and don't even use it in your analysis of what this offense might be going forward. I don't know that Deontay Johnson is better than James Washington. I have no idea. James Washington might have more targets than Deontay Johnson in that offense.
You're going to make me get up and walk out. Damn, John.
Because I like Deontay Johnson just fine, but was he just the favorite of the quarterbacks that were under center last year? Is James Washington have more rapport?
No, he was the only guy that could get open.
Yeah, like I get it. I love Deontay Johnson. I'm not saying that I like James Washington more. I'm just saying there's so many questions in this offense, and the one consistency in this offense coming back is Ben Roethlisberger to Juju, and then hopefully a healthy James Conner in that backfield. And I think that Juju is going to surprise a lot of people, and he's already going at the ADP of wide receiver 12. But remember, last offseason, coming off the season before, he was like dynasty wide receiver like 1 or 2.
Yeah, 1
last offseason, most of the time. So I don't know. I think that Juju's got a really good case for a higher floor than Thielen, which is why I'm going to lean him over Thielen there.
That's fair. The bringing Roethlisberger back and saying that the only true connection there is Roethlisberger to Smith-Schuster, I completely get that. I don't like either of them. I would probably move on and maybe take a tight end, another running back.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. I don't want either of them on my team. But that's the question posed. Wide receiver 13, Amari Cooper or Adam Thielen as your wide receiver 2, John?
Thielen.
Josh?
I hate the consistency, but I would totally take Cooper.
Dude.
Ryan?
I like the offense so much better.
Thielen.
Okay. John, I am going to preface this. I hate Amari Cooper with every ounce of my body. I would never draft him. But if you gave me the option of Cooper
Except
or Thielen,
over Adam
I would probably draft Cooper. I cannot stress this enough. I hate Amari Cooper. I think his consistency is gross. He is awful. But if you're telling me I can throw him in as a wide receiver 2 and he can maybe drop 55 points for me one week,
yeah,
bang.
and that'll be a quarter of his season.
Yeah, it'll be a quarter of a season.
In 1 week.
0 the next 2.
John, I hate the guy. I absolutely hate him. I despise Cooper.
Hold on. I don't even know that Amari Cooper is the wide receiver 1 on his own team.
No. CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver 1 on this team. I've been screaming that since he was drafted.
Michael Gallup, I think, is the one.
CeeDee Lamb, not even close.
CeeDee Lamb being a slot. But if you're telling me that you want Amari Cooper, the most like inconsistent wide receiver 1, air quotes for people that aren't watching, over Adam Thielen, who is literally the de facto wide receiver 1 on his team, like why? What does Amari
higher
Cooper
volume
give
passing
you?
offense? I'm always going to take the guy that's going to get more targets.
But if
there's more opportunity.
If Lamb's the truth, the third wide receiver in that offense.
Weren't we just talking about rookies probably not making that type of impact with Justin Jefferson? Why do we automatically assume that CeeDee Lamb's going to?
Josh?
But I mean that's
Josh. Justin Jefferson's player profiler doesn't say that he's Jerry Rice. Okay, that's the difference. That's the big difference. But
look, I love CeeDee Lamb just as much as the next guy, and Michael Gallup was my wide receiver 1 a couple years ago in rookie drafts. Like, I love all those guys, but none of them are getting paid $20 million a year. Cooper is, and just signed that extension. So
I also
made no sense to me.
I think the
I'm not saying that the extension made any sense. I'm just saying that it happened.
You signed Amari Cooper to $20 million, but Dak's still on the tag. Like, what the hell are you doing?
I don't get that. You have D-Law under a huge contract. You have Amari Cooper under a huge contract. You have Zeke under a huge contract.
And the quarterback is what makes it all click. So
and the quarterback's what makes it all click. And also, let me just put this out there. There's only one guy under a massive contract that's actually doing anything on that team, and it's Zeke.
Yeah.
D-Law's terrible. He's a run stuffer at this point. His sack game was awful. And Cooper just decides to show up when he wants to. So I can't trust Kirk Cousins enough. I'm going to throw that in there as well. Okay. Now that we're done there, maybe we can agree on this one. Adam Thielen or Cooper Kupp, John?
Cooper.
Josh?
Kupp all day.
Ryan?
Cooper Kupp.
Kupp.
All right, Good show, guys. Good to see you.
That's an easy one. 2 more. We'll go 2 more here. Adam Thielen or A.J. Brown, John? Wide receiver 2. You have to play this guy 13 weeks roughly as your wide receiver 2. Who are you taking? A.J. Brown, second-year guy, or Adam Thielen, the vet?
That is very difficult.
For those listening on the podcast, John is like aggressively stroking his beard, thinking it's unbelievable.
Damn.
Wow, this is tough.
Thielen by like half a spot for me.
Okay, all right,
Man,
Josh.
that's really tight.
I would take Thielen, and even though I absolutely love AJ Brown, I don't think they're going to pass enough in Tennessee.
Exactly.
Ryan.
It's all volume.
Adam Thielen.
Thielen, because I think Ryan Tannehill is way worse than Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
That contract.
Yeah, the real Ryan Tannehill is going to stand up this season.
You wanna talk about a bad contract? That Ryan Tannehill contract was not a good one, so I would go Thielen there as well. And honestly, to me, it's not even close. I think AJ Brown's a better talent. I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
To me, I don't think there's a question in that sentence. It's just
volume.
I mean, if you switch the teams, I AJ Brown. It's not even a question.
Oh my God, AJ Brown would be a top 5 wide receiver.
It's not even a question.
Are you kidding me?
It's not even a question. Okay, and last guy, Adam Thielen or Calvin Ridley. John.
Thielen, 100% all day, every day.
Josh.
That's close for me.
No, it's not, Joshua.
I have them about 5 spots apart in my projections. I will go Thielen, but it is close. Yeah,
Ryan.
I do like Ridley a lot this year.
I'm going to go Thielen as well because I think Thielen's a safer play in PPR especially. In standard, I may lean Calvin Ridley because I feel he's a bigger touchdown upside potentially because Julio just doesn't get in the end zone.
No, that's going to Todd Gurley.
Potentially, that's true. But the other thing, too, historically, this is the year Matt Ryan plays as a top 3 fantasy football quarterback.
Yep. MVP candidate this year because it's an even number year. Let's go. Fire him up.
This is the year where Matt Ryan pops off. So, in turn, Calvin Ridley could feel the effects from that. But I think the safer pick is Adam Thielen in that sentence. All right.
5,000 yards incoming from Matt Ryan.
I love it.
Wouldn't doubt it for a second. Not for a second. All right. Moving from the Minnesota Vikings to the Houston Texans in the great state of Texas. Well, not so great state. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Starting with the upsides. Well, yeah, you want to talk about the agreement train. My goodness. Josh and Ryan both agree that Brandon Cooks is the upside for the Texans. You both agree that Will Fuller the fifth is the downside for the Houston Texans. The trust fall, shockingly, is Deshaun Watson. The rookie to watch, Josh, you have wide receiver Isaiah Coulter. Ryan, you have Kahale
Guy who's
Warren.
not actually a rookie.
I cheated. I'm redshirting him.
Red shirt rookie. He was on IR his entire rookie season, so we'll count it. It's like Blake Griffin and Ben Simmons from the NBA.
There you go. 100% cheating.
My sleeper, I have Duke Johnson. Look at the wide receiver core. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're all kind of being taken where they should be, or they're being overstepped, in my opinion, or drafted too high. Duke Johnson hasn't missed an effing game in his career. He averages over 5 yards per touch. Why do coaches hate him? He's unbelievable. If he gets a chance to sign, I think he does well. IDP, Zach Cunningham. I could easily throw J.J. Watt in the sentence, but J.J. Watt hasn't shined as well in fantasy football in recent years. He's kind of been hot and cold. Their secondary is garbage. Zach Cunningham, there you go. That's not a household name, but he's a guy that's going to get in there, get tackles, and maybe get a couple turnovers to maybe put you over the top a couple weeks. The big guy that we're talking about that hasn't been mentioned yet, David Johnson. Bill O'Brien's best trade yet. He trades, he's traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson.
Not great, Bob.
I mean, listen. Some may say a top 10 trade of all time. Others may say.
Yeah, for the Cardinals.
Yeah, for the Cardinals.
Yes.
I mean.
As a Seahawks fan, John, you've got to hate that.
Oh, my gosh. I saw that, and I was just like.
I'm pretty sure every GM in the NFL had to be like, wait, was this
seriously?
That's all I had to give up to get that guy.
It's like when you're in the fantasy league and you wake up in the morning and you roll over to your phone and you see a trade went through overnight and you're like, what the hell? Who was drunk? And why did they not shop that player? Because they would have gotten so much more anywhere else. Stephon Diggs to the
Buffalo
Bills went for more than DeAndre Hopkins to Kyler Murray.
Not to mention, because
I hate
O'Brien
it.
tried to blame it
I
on
hate it.
contract. The pay
No,
up that they
no,
have to give
no.
Johnson. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the pay
Yeah.
up that they had to give Johnson would have made up for the money they had to pay Hopkins. So it
Yep.
makes literally no sense.
Oh yeah,
So-
are we talking about David Johnson now? Because I'm about to
Go
blow
for it.
Go ahead,
Running
John.
back guy,
All
John.
you.
Start the conversation.
I hate David Johnson this year. I cannot stand it. I don't want any David Johnson shares. I don't want anything to do with this Houston offense at all. Period. I'm basically writing it off. Maybe a late throw on Brandon Cooks, because if he does somehow manage to not get a concussion, which he will get a concussion, and probably miss 4 to 6 weeks or retire. But if somehow that does not happen, then he absolutely has great upside to be a very, very solid wide receiver too. That's the only piece of this offense that I want. Deshaun Watson is going to be running for his life. And on all those plays where it breaks down and he avoids one sack, avoids another, he's like bobbing and weaving, back there, like ducking punches, pops out. And where he wants to go like this and find DeAndre Hopkins in, it doesn't matter the coverage, just throw the ball up to DeAndre Hopkins and let him come down with it. DeAndre Hopkins is no longer there. So that extra half second, I don't have that safety valve. I think that he's going to take more sacks than he's ever taken. I think that it's going to be very bad news for him. I'm concerned about him holding up from a health standpoint for the beating that he's going to take. I don't want it. David Johnson has not averaged over 4 yards a carry since 2016.
Yep.
2016. He's 28 years old, coming off of injuries, going to a new offense with new language, new quarterback, new worse offensive line. Hard to have a worse offensive line than Arizona,
Cardinals.
but they do. Changing teams, new quarterback, new scheme, new language, new role in the offense in an offseason where there's not going to be any preseason. All of this COVID stuff messing up the opportunity to potentially get on the same page. That one play that we've all seen 1,000 times against Tampa Bay, where it just looked like he was running through molasses and then got killed by the linebacker that was coming in for the tackle, was like, whew, yikes. Like, this is not the David Johnson of old. It doesn't look good. Sure, he's still going to be viable in the passing game. And yes, Carlos Hyde still managed to put up 1,000 yards in that offense last year. But for me, the biggest concern is his health. I don't think he stays healthy and plays a full 16. This offense as a whole is going to really struggle, I think, to get the ball down the field and be able to score points. So his scoring upside is going to be very limited. I'm out. There's so many other options with higher ceilings, more upside than David Johnson. I do not want at any price. I don't want him. Him and Le'Veon Bell are the two running backs that are literally just dead to me. I'm not going to touch either one.
So, Josh, Ryan, there anything more to add? I feel like John kind of covered everything.
No, I think he hit a great comp there with Le'Veon Bell. And then another one that falls in that same is David Montgomery, where they're guys who are going to get a ton of carries, but we just don't know what they're going to do with them. So even if he stays healthy, he could see 250 carries and not crack 900 yards. And that's just not going to be great fantasy output. And I think John hit it best where there's not going to be the scoring opportunities. David Johnson, when he's good, it's because he finds ways to score touchdowns. I don't know that he's going to have that in Houston. And right now he's going as the RB21. I'm guessing that's somewhere in the 4th, 5th round. That's usually where I'm starting. Yep. And that's usually where I'm starting to look for that wide receiver value. So again, why am I going to take, John said it best, a guy at his ceiling when I can grab these wide receivers that are going so late? Michael Gallup is usually going right around there. Terry McLaurin. Those are guys that I want to get my hands on. So, yep.
All day them over David Johnson.
So
yeah, David Johnson's efficiency is just awful. I mean, his yards after contact per attempt has steadily decreased since he broke out in 2016. And even that breakout wasn't great. He was 31st out of 66 running backs in yards after first contact.
No, he's never been good at that.
Yeah, it never been good. And he broke 71 tackles rushing and receiving. And he's still that's not what he does. The run blocking grade per Pro Football Focus last year for the Cardinals was 24th.
Yeah.
is that good?
No, it's not. And Houston was worse. Houston was worse at 27th. Okay.
Yep.
Carlos Hyde got as many yards as he did because of his ability to break tackles. He broke 44 tackles total, 41 rushing, 2.78 yards after first contact. You know who was even higher than that? Duke Johnson, 3.64. He has been top 5 in the NFL the last 2 years in yards after first contact per attempt, and nobody gives him the football.
Nope.
So if anybody knows how to run behind this ass backwards broken offensive line in Houston, it's Duke Johnson, because David Johnson can't do it.
And
Josh,
he did it in Cleveland for all those years.
Yeah. You know how to run behind a bad offensive line.
Yeah, and
came from
to
Cleveland.
me, all of the value with David Johnson lies in his receiving ability.
That's it. That's the only thing.
I mean, are we even sure that he's going to get that in Houston? Because Bill O'Brien, over the 5-6 years that he's been in Houston, he doesn't throw to running backs. A couple times
he might.
Top 18%.
He might have a route designed for a running back.
The only way that this
doesn't
is
throw it.
The only way this is going to
runs.
happen is if they're legitimately playing the wide receiver position.
Yes.
That's it. Like, Duke Johnson was 3rd on the Texans in targets last year. There's only been 2 other instances with Bill O'Brien where a running back has hit those numbers, and it's been because the wide receivers were healthy and playing, so the running backs weren't getting touches, or it was the tight ends. Like, they maneuver where they can. So if the wide receiver core is absolutely decimated, then sure, I can see an instance where both David Johnson and Duke Johnson put up receiving quality numbers that you want from running backs. But knowing that, hey, these guys are going into the season healthy, I'm not banking on it. It's the same reason in Philly why I'm not banking on Dallas Goedert repeating what he was able to do, because if the wide receivers are healthy, Zach Ertz is still the tight end 1 there.
Well, it's the same sort of thing in Philadelphia where they started running more 2 tight end sets because Jordan Akins was there, Darren Fells, and then, like I said, the coach has been raving about Cahill Waring, where I think he's a big athletic guy, and they even said going on the IR last year was the best thing that could happen because it's giving him time to get NFL ready, to where you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets, and he's the kind of tight end where you might see split out in the slot to where it's a tight end set where you're going to have him and Cobb in the 2 slot positions. I just don't know that there's going to be a lot of RB opportunity in the passing game.
Actually, Randall Cobb might be the only piece of that offense that I'm interested in.
And you get him so late right now.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, he's basically free.
He's free. Yeah.
Wide receiver 75 on the 80.
What?
Free.
I mean, I'll take him at wide receiver 75, but I am.
You know, I'd take anyone at wide receiver 75.
I am jumping all over Duke Johnson at RB 51. Like, are you kidding me?
David Johnson's going to get hurt. So
Yeah,
That's what he does,
Easily.
yeah.
exactly. So
And they have no depth behind those 2.
And they didn't
No.
draft a running back. I was shocked. Like, that was one
John.
of my preseason.
John, why would Bill O'Brien draft the need when he could just draft other people?
yeah.
Exactly.
Why
No, I
do
totally
the sensible thing? It's
He's like, you know what he is? He's the head coach from the Waterboy. I think about running right. I imagine running right. They think I'm running right, and then I'm lost. I'm confused. I don't know where I am. That's Bill O'Brien every single day operating as a general. Can they please just hire an actual general manager and then fire him as the coach? Like, please.
Yeah. Step 1.
So they're
Poor Deshaun Watson, by the way. Good Lord.
oh my
I
god,
feel
yeah.
so
His
bad for
rushing
Watson.
floor is so much higher now because he's just going to be running for his life.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like his
rushing numbers are gonna be
QB6 ADP right now is a bargain.
great. It could be.
So so just going back to Houston's draft, their first pick was in the 2nd round because Bill O'Brien has decided to trade every first-round pick he owns.
Yes.
It was a nose tackle.
Yeah.
Good
Round
for
2.
you. Good
Round
for
2.
you, Bill.
You want to know the first offensive lineman they took?
Probably around 6, I think it was.
In the 4th round, it
Oh,
was
they took one in the 4th.
it was a right guard. And the next offensive lineman you asked that they took after that? Oh, they didn't. They were all undrafted.
Good. Good.
Yeah, but they paid Laramie Tunsil, though.
Hey, good for you guys.
Worst
I
left
see-
tackle in the NFL.
I see Deshaun Jackson in that room on fire. Things are fine meme.
This is fine.
All right, so
I'm looking for Cahill Waring. Does anyone have an
The
ADP
ADP?
on him? Because I don't
he's free.
see him.
Yeah,
he's
free.
got to be not drafted. I don't think anyone knows
He
who
does
he
not
is.
exist in ADP.
No, I'm literally still scrolling. I don't see his name. Where the hell is he?
Let's see.
I mean, Fells right now
hold
is
on.
37.
Hold on.
So that tells me that everybody else, Thomas, Akins, Waring, they're all like
guys, I found
not
him.
even there.
Yeah,
Guys,
tight
I
end
found him.
27.
He's tight end 127,
Hey-o!
right behind Steven Sullivan.
Yes.
And I'll give John Steven Sullivan for your Seattle Seahawks.
I didn't even know he was a Seahawks.
I don't think anybody knew. Hold on.
I have literally no clue.
He's being taken after Jermaine Gresham, and Jermaine Gresham doesn't even have a job. Like, what? That's unbelievable. That's incredible. Okay, so Kahale Waring, for anybody that wants him, is completely free.
He's a very athletic tight end. He is someone that
Don't
kind of
draft
fits that
him.
mold.
Just
Listen,
keep an eye on him on Fab.
he's going to outplay his draft position.
Oh, that's
He
for
has
certain.
I mean, it's almost impossible. If he scores 0 points, he'll still outplay his draft position.
Well, he needs to get 1 point so he can outplay the tight end who don't even have jobs in front of him.
That's true. That's a fact.
True.
But-
Week 1, when he gets 1 reception for 7 yards, he's already worth more
ADP.
than his ADP.
Return on investment.
We won't do a would you rather here because we all don't like David Johnson. I have him on my dynasty team in hopes that he might be able to shed some light on my team. I have Duke Johnson.
You know what you
But-
have to hope for with David Johnson? You have to hope that he has one good week.
Yes.
Like early in the season, like week 1, week 2,
And
where
trade the hell.
where he
Trade him.
gives you
Get him.
where he gives you
Gone.
80 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
And then sell him for literally whatever you can. I don't even care if it's a bag of peanuts. You have to hope he puts
Just
up
make sure
one
they're
good
broiled.
week.
I mean, at this point, I could sell him for like a 2025 fifth round pick, maybe. So maybe if he's
2025. Who former Hall of Fame NFL player's kid is in high school right now? That's going to be eligible for the
Deion
2025
Sanders?
draft. Maybe, yeah. I think
Deion
that
Sanders'
sounds
kid's a
about right.
quarterback, I
Frank
believe.
Gore.
No,
oh,
he's in college. Frank Gore
Yeah,
Jr.
that's
is
what
in
I'm
college
saying.
now. Yeah.
Oh, he's already played 2 years?
No, he's going this year. He's an undersized running back going to Central Mississippi State.
Maybe
think.
he gets maybe he redshirts. Does
Yeah,
that
if
get
he
him to
redshirts,
25?
he'd be 2025, man.
Is that an
All right.
HBCU, Central Mississippi State?
We need him to come out early so
Dang.
him and his dad can play at the same time.
Yes.
I
Oh,
swear
yes.
that that's what Frank's waiting for. I swear that senior is just like, I want to play with my kid. Like whatever
you
team he's
imagine-
on has to get him. I don't think that Frank Gore Jr. is the prospect that's gonna be drafted.
No.
He's an undersized guy. He's like 175 right now.
Yeah.
He's smaller. He looks okay. But you have to know that whatever team Frank Gore is on, whenever Junior comes into the league, he's just gonna go knock on the GM's door and be like, "Can you just give my kid a 1 year undrafted free agent, small time contract so we can play together?" And they'd probably be like, "Yeah."
I
Sure.
love the knocking segue, John, because somebody's actually coming in to crash the party. So
No way.
yeah, give
There he
it
is.
up to Tommy.
Shit.
Tommy Garrett,
And that was
PFA.
quick.
I hope his headphones
Welcome
are
in,
Bluetooth.
Tommy.
What's up, everyone?
How are
John-
you, sir?
John
I'm
has
good.
full on left. He's going to get some more herbal tea whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he'll come back with a giant diatribe written about Jonathan Taylor by the time he comes back.
Well, I was about
Love
to bring up Jonathan Taylor because before we got into this, we talked about David. Oh, John pokes his head in real quick. John,
It never fails. Jonathan Taylor. Somebody ring.
what?
Right?
So
It's like Beetlejuice. Say it 3 times tonight. Pop out of
So,
nowhere.
so John, I always enjoy your little JT rants. So I'll give you like a couple minutes here. So a couple guys here. We talked about David Johnson's taken as an RB2 right now. He's like smack dab in the middle. He's currently going RB20. Way too high. I think everyone agrees here on this show. So guys being taken in the same breath as him. Leonard Fournette. Now, someone
Fournette.
speak out if you believe that any of these guys should not be taken over David Johnson.
We're just going to assume that they should be until
Yeah,
someone
100%.
says otherwise.
Yes,
Pretty
until
much,
someone says something different. Leonard Fournette. Le'Veon Bell. Okay, that's
I'll
fair.
think David Johnson is slightly less dead than Le'Veon Bell to me, and that's as kind as I can put it.
Now, is
Okay,
that more
there we go.
because of Bell or is that because of Adam Gase?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the offensive line. It's Adam Gase.
Yes, but they made offensive line improvements, John.
Mekhi Becton.
like-
Not saying much.
Mekhi Becton ran like a 4.95 40 at 300 and whatever he is.
He's like
That was like the most
350.
insane. Yeah, it was like the most
Oh,
insane 40 I've ever seen. Like
He's
other
a big
than-
boy.
Yeah, he was moving. It was it was impressive, but that's still just one spot on a line. Like,
Yeah.
good, you got
Yeah,
one.
they
player,
added
that's
most of the guys
fantastic.
they added were all depth pieces. Like
Yeah.
none
Right.
of those names really just kind of like, oh, I want that guy blocking.
No,
for
but
me.
I will take David Johnson for his potential receiving upside over Le'Veon Bell. I'll give him that
That's fair.
caveat, and
That's
that's why
fair.
I go that way.
Chris Carson,
Carson.
Oh, Carson,
Melvin Gordon,
No.
Gordon.
DJ's at 20. James Conner.
Connor.
Connor.
I'm going to skip over 22 for a sec. Devin Singletary.
That's
I
where
think
it
I would
gets
take
close
Johnson.
for me.
Yeah,
We're getting close
I would
there.
take Johnson.
Yeah.
That's a pause. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Buffalo is going to be more of a run-focused offense. But we don't know the effect of Zach Moss on that team. Plus, you got once you get inside the red zone, you have to worry about Josh Allen too, stealing some
Yep.
carries.
Yeah, we were just talking about this last week. Buffalo running backs have scored 9 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 years total.
Yikes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
No bueno.
Singletary has 0 touchdown upside, and I don't think he offers even near what Johnson could from a receiving perspective.
Okay.
Agreed. I'd go DJ, I think.
24 is David Montgomery.
Montgomery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I have
that-
Johnson higher, but I think I would still take Montgomery.
So that's the end of your RB2s, but RB22 is the one, the only, the love of Jon Helmkamp,
Oh,
none other than Jonathan Taylor.
Do we even need to ask?
Do we
Yeah,
need to
right.
ask or
No, he's going way too late.
middle of the
Yeah,
5th
it's-
round?
Now that in redraft, that sounds right for this weird off season, for not getting
Yeah.
on the field, for all that. Listen, he's taking over that backfield. It's just a matter of when. It's not if. Marlon Mack is like he's only like $2 million against the cap. He's going to be a very, very inexpensive backup to Jonathan Taylor before long. It's just a matter of how fast Jonathan Taylor gets acclimated to that offense, to the language, stuff like that. That offensive line is absurd.
Yep.
The thing is, he's going to make one run probably early in the season, like week 1's against Jacksonville. He might only get like 8 to 10 carries against Jacksonville, maybe something like that. And Marlon Mack's probably going to get, 12, 14, somewhere in that ballpark. He's probably going to have less carries than Marlon Mack week 1. But he's going to make one run where you look at it and you go, I know for a fact that Marlon Mack could not do
yeah.
what Jonathan
Oh, yeah.
Taylor just did. And it's going to be so hard for them not to just feed that guy, especially against that really bad run defense. I mean, he makes one with that 4.39 speed at that size. It's going to be pretty. I'm really looking forward to it. He's going to break at some point. I think that ADP for JT makes a lot of sense. If you wanted to reach on him around earlier, that'd be fine. I don't want him as more than my RB2. I prefer him as an RB3 in redraft, because you are baking that risk of like, when is he going to like fully take over this job into his price at that point, and you're not sacrificing your early season while you're waiting. But whenever he does take over that job, he's going to have more of an impact down the stretch this year than Miles Sanders had down the stretch of last year, is the way that I like to put it. He's going to be a league winner for the stretch run of the season, in my opinion.
A great
So-
comparison to this that I heard on the Fantasy Footballers the other day is if these superstar, like everyone is projecting Taylor to be a superstar, but everyone's saying
Sure.
the same thing as John, when's it going to happen? But if you were told Ezekiel Elliott's going to miss the first 4 games of the season, Saquon Barkley's going to miss the first 4 games, when are you drafting those guys? And they're not going to fall out of the 2nd or 3rd round.
No,
So
they're not.
Taylor in the 5th could end up being a great bargain if all you're waiting is 4 games. It's just a
Yep.
question of, is that all it'll
So,
take?
so Ryan, you talk about the first 4 games. The first 4 games for the Colts are the Jags,
Love
the
it.
Vikings, the Jets, and the Bears. The Vikings and the Bears have solid run defenses. They're very good run defense. The Vikings can waver here and there, but it tends to be only in the division.
Right.
See Aaron Jones last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Aaron Jones. From week 5 on,
You're never letting that go, are you, Tommy?
I'm in the same boat. from week 5 on, they play the Baltimore Ravens in week, I think that's 8. Outside of that, I'm going to be honest, I think the toughest run defense they face is Tennessee.
Yeah,
and I don't think Tennessee.
Cake.
It's absolute.
Cake.
It's a cup. They play the Packers, they play the Lions, they play the Raiders, they play the Texans and the Titans twice. It's an absolute cupcake schedule when it comes to run defenses. Like Jonathan Taylor could average 6 yards a carry
With
behind that
line,
offensive
yeah.
line.
Yeah.
It's like that offensive line. I think if you were to say who's the best run blocking offensive line, you'd have to argue that Indianapolis could be number 1 in the NFL.
No, you don't have to say Indianapolis. You just say Quentin Nelson.
Quentin,
It's
that beast.
he's a road grader. Like
Yeah.
I love the way that he's just Pancake City. Like I'm just gonna start calling him IHOP. It's just
I like
absolutely fantastic. Watching Jonathan Taylor run behind Quentin Nelson for the next 4 to 6 years that they give him an extension is going to just be so beautiful. They have the easiest strength of schedule for running backs in the entire NFL this year. And whenever Jonathan Taylor does take over that job, and it is happening, he's going to be a locked and loaded running back 1.
For the
point you
record,
brought up about them going against Jacksonville in week 1 and about he can possibly break that long touchdown run.
Yep.
Who was it that Derrick Henry made his big plays against? It was
Always
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
So it fits
Always,
up perfectly
yep.
to match up.
Listen,
for the record, the Colts, per Pro Football Focus, second highest run blocking grade among the total offensive line.
Who they
Who's
give number
first?
1?
are the Seahawks 1?
Actually, the
Hell
Eagles
no.
are.
The Eagles were.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I could buy that.
John, I say the Seahawks because the Seahawks offensive line only knows how to move forward. They have no clue how to move backwards.
Yeah, Seahawks were actually
Not wrong.
17th.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not what they used to be.
Okay.
Well, I think another
interesting.
thing that's going to help them there is that defense is continuing to improve, and it's going to put them in a lot of run beneficial situations to where
DeForest Buckner was
Oh,
fantastic.
that's
as a
I love
trade.
that move for them.
Love it.
Baller. I got DeForest Buckner in the 5th round of an IDP only league that I did with Joe Redeman. I was shocked he fell that far. Buckner's going to absolutely go off in that
And
division.
I know he was terrible last year, but they also added Xavier Rhodes. Rock Ya-Sin played really well as a rookie last year. Malik Hooker. I mean, it's a team that's starting to come together on defense. So
Darius Leonard. I mean, their defense is
Darius
solid.
Leonard goes.
All those second
Baller.
round picks and no first rounders are finally starting to pay off.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolute
Yeah.
baller. So
They are
for-
ever since they took over the new organizational side.
Oh, Chris Ballard.
they
has
have just
been
absolutely
fantastic for
destroyed
them.
it. Ballard's
Ballard's
been
been-
incredible
yeah.
for that team.
Killing it. He's doing so well.
All Ursula has to do is just step aside, and they know the Colts are going to be in good hands.
Yep.
So from the team that drafted Jonathan Taylor to the team that passed over Jonathan Taylor, sorry, John, your Seattle Seahawks. I have to bring it up every time because I still blows my mind to this day that they didn't pick him at 27. We will start here with John Seahawks and end the show here. John's very mad, ladies and gentlemen. John doesn't like when I bring that up, but I
Yeah, you got DJ Dallas, though.
I love DJ Dallas.
I love me some DJ Dallas.
Love DJ Dallas. But we'll start with the upsides. Josh, you have Chris Carson. Ryan, you have Tyler Lockett. You both have as your downside Greg Olsen. Your trust fall, Russell Wilson. I mean, who else is there to trust? And rookie to watch, you both have DJ Dallas, the rookie out of University of Miami. My sleeper, I have Philip Dorsett. Who the hell else am I going to pick? I assume he slots in as the wide receiver 3.
Yeah,
I
think
don't.
so.
He does, right? That's my guess.
It's him or
Um,
David Moore.
What about
I like David Moore,
what
but
about
I think
tight end Scott Sullivan?
who? Oh,
I thought it was Steven Sullivan. I don't even remember his name anymore.
tight end 126.
I liked him better than Thaddeus Moss coming out of LSU, personally, but that's just me.
Okay.
And then my IDP, I have Bobby Wagner. For those that don't pay attention to defense, for how pants off John is for Jonathan Taylor, I'm the same way for Bobby Wagner.
Good.
He is bar none since Luke Kuechly left, because I thought Luke Kuechly overall was the best middle linebacker. Bobby Wagner, another stratosphere. It goes Bobby Wagner and everybody else. In fantasy football, there is a very close comparison to Blake Martinez because Martinez just rakes in the tackles. But in terms of an actual football player, my 2 favorite players in the league are Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner
Wags is amazing.
Bobby Wagner is the best linebacker in the NFL. If Aaron Donald wasn't in the league, I would say Bobby Wagner is the best player in the league. That is how much I like Bobby Wagner.
No,
I
I don't
agree.
play. I don't play IDP. How close is we were just talking about the Colts? Darius Leonard to Bobby Wagner as far as linebackers go.
People have Darius Leonard rated higher. I mean, Darius Leonard's rookie year in the league that I played in, he scored 307 fantasy points. Like, he raked in the tackle. So, a big thing in the league, I know it differs from Joe Redeman, who we had on the show, but in the leagues that I play in, tackles, each tackle counts for 2, assisted tackles count for 1, sacks count for 3. So, tackles really play more into what your points are going to be.
Right.
So with how much these middle linebackers are kind of running all over the field, that's why Bobby Wagner, Blake Martinez, Kuechly, when he was in the league, are so valuable. But Leonard was just so damn fast and everywhere on the field, where you just said there was no one else on defense for anyone to contend with. Wagner has a few guys. Like before Wagner, go back a few years. Bruce Irvin, Cam Chancellor. Earl Thomas was kind of anything kind of back there. Thomas,
he was a freaking missile in his prime.
Yes,
oh my
exactly.
Lord!
And then KJ Wright, is that who I'm thinking of? John?
Yep,
Still there,
KJ Wright.
KJ's still there. Very good
so
tandem.
he had those guys to contend with. Right now, Bobby Wagner has not a soul to contend with at linebacker on that
Bobby
defense.
and KJ Wright are responsible for making every tackle.
Yes,
on that defense.
and KJ Wright is nowhere near as good as he was a few years ago, and
agree.
doesn't even touch the stratosphere of Bobby Wagner. So Darius Leonard is close, if not higher, in some respects.
I was just taking a look at fantasy data's like standard scoring, which is the standard scoring that Sleeper uses as well. Leonard beat Wagner by 4 points last year, so they are as equal as equal can be.
Yeah.
So
Did Wagner miss a game? I thought Wagner missed a game last year.
Not according to fantasy data, but
He did it? Okay.
they have it at 16.
Okay.
I love this one. Darius Leonard last year in 13 games had 5 interceptions. That's tied for second in the NFL.
Oh wait, did Leonard miss
ridiculous.
3? I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah,
missed 3 games.
Leonard missed 3 and still finishes a top 10 linebacker. Unbelievable. The guy's absolutely ridiculous. I still have Wagner above him, but yeah, I have Wagner, Martinez, and Leonard 1, 2, 3. I flip a coin on any of them. They're all unbelievable. They're going to get you close to 300 points.
Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard in the same draft class for the Colts.
Insane.
Like that is
neither were first round
striking
picks,
gold.
right?
No, Nelson was.
I think Nelson was
overall.
Nelson was okay.
He was early first,
And then Leonard went in the second round.
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, like those 2 picks back to back, like you can't. It's
Crushed it.
so rare for teams to just nail their top
And to get
picks like
that
that.
reset
to
your
get
franchise.
cogs, to get absolute
absolutely.
stud,
Yes.
all pro talent at cog positions in consecutive picks in the same draft. Like that is like Chris Ballard, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Like, that is phenomenal job.
The last team I could think of, maybe just because it's the Patriots and I know them, when they drafted Chandler Jones and Donta Hightower in the same draft back to back,
Fact.
which was, and again, Jones isn't with the team, but when Jones was with the team, unbelievable. So that back-to-back talent. And just before we dive into DK Metcalf, who's our player focus here, John knows this all too well because he's a Seahawks fan. Chandler Jones is by far the most underrated pass rusher in the NFL.
Yeah, nobody talks about him. It's
Nobody talks
unbelievable.
about him, and he gets like 19 sacks a season. Oh, and also, he's never missed a game playing for Arizona. I think he's missed 2 games in his whole career, and I think it was a suspension. Like, the guy is always healthy, always on the field. Love Chandler Jones. All right.
Oh, and now they're going to put Isaiah Simmons back behind him.
Ooh.
Great. Thank you. That's fun for me. I like that.
I actually just drafted him in an IDP league, and all the articles are talking about how he's going to improve his run coverage. And I was like, oh, this is so good.
Improve at a sub 4.40. Is okay.
I am
all right.
all over Isaiah Simmons. If you're in a Dynasty IDP league,
Defensive weapon.
Oh my God.
Just so I meant Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones is focusing on run now, so he's going to add more tackles to that. I also got Simmons in that draft, but yes.
I draft them both. They're They're both unbelievable. All right. So DK Metcalf. Here's a guy where I know there's differing opinions between Josh and Ryan, I believe. Ryan, I know you're high on Lockett. You haven't fallen off the Lockett train yet, whereas I think, Josh, you're high on the 6'4" human specimen that is DK Metcalf out of Ole Miss.
I wouldn't say I'm high on him, but
Okay.
I like the potential upside.
You're tipsy. How about that? You're
There you
tipsy. on DK Metcalf. John, as a fan who saw both of these guys play last year, and I'm sure have been following this team religiously as much as you can in the offseason with COVID, how do you feel about this situation and specifically gearing towards Metcalf? How do you feel that he fares going into year 2?
Yeah, so DK Metcalf for me, first and foremost, I'm shocked that he lasted to us in the draft.
Yes.
It was a slam dunk of a pick. I can't believe that he lasted that long. Blew the roof off the combine. Everyone was calling him a workout warrior, and because he only ran 9 routes at Ole Miss, is why he fell. Early in the season, Seattle deployed him largely like that. They lined him up on the left side almost primarily, and had him run either a go, a post, or a corner on basically every route. As the season went on and he was putting in the work and putting in work with Russell Wilson on the side, and the coaching staff started to see what he was capable of doing, they started expanding his route tree, and they started lining him up all over the field. They lined him up on the right side. He had a more complete tree as the season went on. We saw that he had a really great rapport building with Russell Wilson. Wilson trusts him. The game-sealing catch against Green Bay, it's basically just a 50-50 ball that Russell Wilson on, I think, 3rd and long, threw down the middle of the field to DK Metcalf, and Metcalf went up and caught it and ended the game. It was like perfect stamp on the season. Like, there's your final play. DK Metcalf, to me, has all the tools to be a very, very gifted wide receiver in this league. His physical measurables are absolutely insane. His catch percentage last year was super strong. He showed an ability to make contested catches. He showed that he's more than just a 9-route guy. He can actually separate. He can gain. He knows how to leverage. He's working on that. He's working on the nuances to become an NFL wide receiver. And I think that we're going to see even more of that in year 2. Tyler Lockett is still the safety blanket for Russell Wilson because they have such an insane chemistry. And 2 years ago, he had a perfect passer rating when targeted by Russell Wilson. Last year was just under that, barely. But I always think of that catch in the back of the end zone against the Rams at home, where Wilson is rolling to his left, across his body, puts it in a basket like a yard and a half outside the end zone, and Lockett just like completely Michael Jackson Thriller leans in the end zone.
That was that ridiculous toe tap, right?
It was insane. Yeah, it was that toe tap that when it happened, I was like, holy shit, I think he caught that. And then they showed it on the replay, and he did. He had his toes down. It was remarkable. That chemistry is going to make it hard for DK Metcalf to really, truly ascend to like an elite status. But I think that that's coming. So for 2020 specifically in redraft purposes, don't get overhyped on DK Metcalf and think that he's about to break out to be a wide receiver 1. I don't think that's happening. But I think that he's a very, very solid wide receiver 2. I think that he and Lockett are going to finish the year with very similar numbers. I think that they're going to be like a 1A, 1B in that offense this season. I wouldn't be surprised if down the stretch run, DK kind of overtakes Lockett, especially as a touchdown producer, as a red zone weapon. I think that he gains a little bit more of that role because of his sheer size and athleticism. Both those guys are going to be incredibly valuable. Both of them kind of hurt each other's value in a sense. I don't think either one of them finished inside the top 12, but I think both of them finished inside the top 18, probably somewhere in that ballpark range.
And they're being drafted back-to-back in fantasy drafts right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, so
that's kind of how I have them in my projections too. I have them at 21 and 22. I mean, it's a low volume passing offense. It's what it's been. And as efficient as Russell Wilson is, I just don't understand why they don't let him throw the football more. Because I feel like they could be even better if they did.
John sounded like he was going through a wind tunnel right there, sighing so loudly. I mean, so you look at it, Russell Wilson.
I mean, he throws the best deep ball in the NFL.
It's beautiful.
100%.
And so 3 times in Wilson's career, he's thrown over 500 attempts in the season. Only one of those times has been over 550. So, and that was back in 2017, where he actually didn't even surpass 4,000 passing yards.
No.
But he did have his tied for his second most touchdowns in a season, but also tied for the most interceptions.
That was
he's
the
ever
Jimmy.
thrown.
That was the Jimmy Graham season, where Jimmy Graham had double-digit touchdown seasons in that offense.
Yeah, and that was also
9-6.
his worst season as a starting quarterback at 9-7.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you look at it and you talk about, like, I guess diminishing return at this point. So you look at it, he went, his most pass attempts, he was 9-7. His second most pass attempts, he was 10-5-1. His third most pass attempts, he was 11-5. I mean, so it looks like the sweet spot for Wilson is between 500 and 525 attempts. Now,
So the other thing about that big pass attempt year is he almost rushed for 600 yards that year too. Which
his rushing has really fallen off too. Like he hasn't been, doing the bootlegs and really saying, hey, I'm just going to run for 400 or 500 yards every year. Like, we want rushing quarterbacks to do in fantasy because that lifts their floor. But again, like every year it's 30 touchdowns. It's a 7% touchdown rate. Like, and you just kind of, much like with Drew Brees, like you just kind of keep expecting it to fall back to the mean, but it never does. And now you've got a guy like Metcalf who's 6'4". He's a beast. Like you think that, hey, this is a guy that's going to be great in the red zone and it's going to keep his touchdown numbers up. 5'10" Tyler Lockett outproduced DK in the red zone last year. So like, and that's kind of my biggest thing with Metcalf is that we want him to be that number one guy. And John, you kind of hit it on the head. I think they're really sort of like a 1A, 1B type. And I think that really kind of limits the floor for both, but it doesn't necessarily hurt. It doesn't hurt the floor, but it limits the ceiling.
Yep.
I think the Lockett security blanket thing, and we kind of touched on this guy a little earlier, and I don't know that he's going to be much for fantasy football, but adding Philip Dorsett in his 4.25 40, where you're going to have DK and Dorsett on the outside, I think that's going to open up things. Exactly. And then I think it's going to open up things for Lockett again in the middle to where I'm still projecting him at a little bit higher volume than DK, just because I think you're going to see things wide open if Russ isn't throwing that deep ball. Now, if Russ goes back to throwing that deep ball, Dorsett could matter all of a sudden, then DK could overtake Lockett.
So when I'm looking at this offense, one, it's the most infuriating thing in the entire planet to me. It absolutely drives me insane. Watching Seahawks games is like you're just waiting on an aneurysm. Like you're just sitting around just waiting for your head to just go, nope, I'm done. I literally can't take any more of it, because there's an actual quote out there that says that in the first half they like to run the ball and gather information. I shit you not that this is a real quote.
The Pete Carroll
that
method.
exists.
Sounds like Pete Carroll, yeah.
And I'm just like, Pete, buddy, can you? There's a reason why Russell Wilson would go into halftime with 4 fantasy points and finish with 30, because they don't open it up in the first half.
No, it's because he spent time gathering information in the first half.
Information. And
He's breaking down
work.
the coverages.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, it's the most infuriating thing in the world. I've been on record on the Red Shirts podcast of saying that if Russell Wilson had any other head coach in the NFC West, he would be widely regarded in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes.
Not only that, he'd actually get MVP votes.
Oh yeah, that just stop it.
That blows my freaking mind.
It is the most insulting thing in the entire NFL right now that Russell Wilson has not received a MVP vote at all. Baker Mayfield has. Russell Wilson is not.
Well, and then if you want to add to the insulting, all the trade rumors that have come out where it's like the Seahawks almost traded him to the Browns. The Seahawks talked about trading him to the Bills. And it's like, what the hell? Why are you even considering this?
Well, because the Seahawks as an organization, they are notorious for they have a conversation about everybody. It doesn't mean they're actually intending on doing anything, but it's that whole information gathering philosophy.
Which I don't think is a bad thing. It's just when the information gets out, that's when it's a bad thing.
That's when it's a problem. But any single time that any player there's rumors of them being available, they're like, oh, we've heard from about 4 or 5 teams. Seahawks, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Every single time they check on the pricing for everybody, which is a good thing to do. But yeah, this offense, there's been rumors this offseason that they are looking at opening it up and actually allowing Russell Wilson to throw the ball. Signing Philip Rivers is kind of nice for what it does.
Well, then you bring in Greg Olsen too, and we know what he's able to do in the middle of the field.
Well, Greg Olsen, what they did, what the Seahawks did by signing Greg Olsen was hire a tight end coach.
Yeah,
fair enough.
He's a $7 million insurance policy in case something happens.
Yeah, it's basically what the Cowboys did with Jason Witten last year.
Yeah.
I'm
not.
Except they had Jason Witten
actually what the Raiders are doing this year with him.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I have a few questions that have popped in to my head while you guys have been talking back and forth. So we'll start with the one that pertains to Metcalf and Lockett. So say Russell Wilson throws for 500 attempts, give or take 10 or 15 attempts.
Okay.
Would you rather, as your wide receiver 2, DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett? I will start with Josh.
At that point, I think I would rather have Lockett because of the higher catch percentage. I mean, the last 2 years, he's been over 74%. That's unbelievable.
Yep.
That's very good.
Ryan.
It's Lockett regardless of the attempts for me.
Okay. Tommy?
I'll take Lockett. I think he has a safer floor. But my one thing, like with DK, is like he started off slow, but he was 10th in the NFL. He had 9 games over 60 yards receiving. If they boost the red zone percentage on his 17 red zone targets, he only caught 5 of them for 29.4%. On those 5 that he caught, that was for 47 yards and 4 touchdowns. If you increase that percentage up to like 60%, you're looking at a guy who has 10 touchdown upside.
Mm-hmm. And that's
according to Fan. Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, that's a good possibility on the jump because he caught 46% of his contested catches, which you're going to think red zone attempts are going to be contested catches. So he could easily double that output.
Like if you look at DK Metcalf, he looks like he should win every single red zone jump ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he has. I mean, I guess I agree. Lockett probably has the floor when it comes just passing volume, but I think DK by far has the upside.
Yeah, according to fantasy data, in the red zone, Lockett was second among wide receivers in PPR fantasy points, 73.4. Metcalf was 26th. Like, there's
the
a
one
huge
thing with Lockett
discrepancy
is last year was the first time he had seen over 71 targets in a season with 110.
Yep.
Is that going to be repeatable like we saw this year? Granted, this might be the worst defense Seattle has seen in the Russell Wilson era, especially if they don't. If whatever happens with Jadeveon Clowney, he might come back. He might go somewhere else. It's still up in the air. This might be the worst defense, so they might have to throw the ball even more.
Don't pay Clowney. He's a glorified run stopper.
I wouldn't pay him either, but this you might not be able to have the luxury of waiting out in the first half and have to throw the ball more. So you might see more volume that both guys at that point can eat.
Yeah.
I will say that if that's the case, then between the two of them, I'm going to take DK over Lockett. I believe in the ceiling. I believe in the growth that we're going to see out of him in a second year, kind of step forward role in that offense. I think that he's going to make himself into an incredibly friendly red zone target, like you guys were saying. I think that he's going to be a guy kind of like prime Dez Bryant, where you just throw the ball up to Dez in the end zone and let him go and get it. I think DK is evolving into that kind of red zone weapon for that offense. Or you know what? Hell, just line him up in tight as a tight end and let him go to work on a linebacker. I don't care. Like, just
he's a mismatch for whoever.
Or a safety.
Just throw him in there. Yeah. Other than Isaiah.
Is Brian Schottenheimer that creative, though? I think that's a big problem. Like, Schottenheimer's not that creative.
The only players DK would have a hard time against is against the Calvin Johnson safety in Madden. Like, that's the only issue he's going to have.
Yes. You mean Isaiah Simmons?
I was about to say Isaiah Simmons.
He's called Isaiah Simmons now.
That's who it is.
So
that's exactly what it is.
I was expecting to hear a little more Tyler Lockett in this conversation for the 500. So the next question I wanted to pose was, if Wilson throws for 560, give or take 10 or 15 attempts, who would you rather, Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf as your wide receiver 2? Josh?
I think at that point I would probably lean Metcalf because I think he would easily get double-digit touchdowns.
I agree.
There's a very high percentage that he could top 1,400 yards at that point.
Ryan, I know your answer. You're Tyler Lockett. Yeah, close. you're all Tyler Lockett. Tommy?
If he throws for 560, give around that range, DK Metcalf ends up being a low wide receiver 1 for the season.
John?
Preach on it. Agreed. Same thing. I think that at that point, if this defense is that bad, and they were just ranked PFF's worst defensive line in the NFL
They didn't address pass rusher at all.
At all. No. And what they did though. Now listen, Jonathan Taylor was available on the board, but let me tell you, so was Patrick Queen at linebacker. But I'll tell you what we got. We got a 4th round linebacker at the 27th overall pick. I'm really, really excited about that.
Wait,
watch that dude ball out this season.
I would love it. They say that he reminds them of when they scouted Bobby Wagner. That's what they are saying about this guy. That he looks like Bobby Wagner.
He would have been available in the second.
That's putting so much
on
it.
Available in the 3rd, Josh.
Okay, exactly.
He doubled down.
Take Jonathan.
He threw the ball in the end zone.
It's okay. I'm holding out. I'm holding out for Najee Harris next year. That's what I'm holding out for.
John, you're not getting him. I'm sorry. He's going to be there, but you're not drafting him.
Get Chuba Hubbard. You'll be better off.
The tandem of L.J. Collier and Jordan Brooks are going to dominate the NFC West, the previous first-round picks of the aforementioned.
Dude, we're depressing, John. We got to move on from this.
Remember I was drinking earlier? John's going to continue that for me after this podcast is over.
As he takes another sip.
So my
He's
third
a nightcap sitting next to his bedside table.
My third and final question that we will end the Seahawks on here is someone, I forget who mentioned it, Ryan, it might have been you. The addition of Philip Dorsett doesn't exactly mean a lot for him in fantasy football, but for the fact that it's going to open up the field more just because of his speed. So you're saying that might open Lockett up in the middle of the field, potentially maybe open up some of the tight ends. My thought was when you said that is, and Josh, is DJ Dallas a pass catcher or no?
Yes.
Okay.
He was actually a wide receiver before converting to a running back.
Fantastic.
He's got hands.
So this is my question. Does that actually open up room for DJ Dallas to potentially be, and Dynasty, I think we all agree he's viable down the road. Yeah. But just for redraft this year, if they open up the field with those speedsters of Metcalf and Lockett on the Metcalf and Dorsett on the outside, and Lockett's not a slouch either. Lockett can fly too.
He can.
Does that open up the area for DJ Dallas? Because I mean, Dallas isn't a slouch either. That guy can fly as well. So does that open up room for him potentially to slide in and catch a few more passes, maybe some V routes or some crossing routes across the middle? John, I'll give that to you.
You want that from me? So here's my concern. I like DJ Dallas, the prospect. Obviously, he wasn't like a unanimous top 5 rookie running back coming out, but I liked him. He had good tape. He's fun to watch. He's explosive. He doesn't go down very easy. He fights for yardage.
He's a grinder.
He's a grinder, which is a like Seahawk personality. Like it didn't surprise me when they drafted him. I was like, yeah, no, that works. That fits with what they're looking for in a running back.
Beast mode.
Sure, he's not beast mode. Don't go there.
He's not beast mode.
He's not beast mode. But
I love Dallas, but he's not. He's not.
DJ Dallas is a good prospect. I enjoyed him. He was productive at Miami in a
very terrible offense.
Very terrible offense. Just absolutely garbage. Him and Keyshawn Vaughn did the most with the least of the incoming rookie running backs. And I love. Oh, geez. Yeah, the wet paper towel that he was running behind of an offensive line. Good Lord. I do love Cam Akers. Thank you for that. But DJ Dallas is very interesting. He is a pass catcher. Like Josh said, he was a wide receiver before, so he's got good hands for a running back. It's probably one of his best skill sets. My concern is, one, Seattle does not like to deploy multiple running backs. They want a lead guy to be the guy that's out there.
There's a lot of running backs in front of him.
Yes.
There's a lot. This is my concern. And they're all coming off injuries. Yep. So health is going to play a role in it. Chris Carson sounds like he's probably going to be ready to go for week 1. It sounds like Rashad Penny's going to start on PUP. So if it's Chris Carson, and then if DJ Dallas.
Well, they also have Carlos Hyde too.
Well, they've got Los Hyde as well. So you've got Chris Carson. Carlos Hyde is going to be the 2. Chris Carson is going to be the 1.
And they can't seem to quit CJ Procise, who fits a lot of what we've been saying we want Dallas to be.
Isn't Procise gone?
I thought Procise was gone.
Yeah, I think Procise is gone.
I missed that.
I don't know where he went, but I'm pretty sure he's
got
gone.
it.
I'm looking at.
I think he's unsigned right now. If I
He's a
remember
free.
correctly.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say I'm
My
looking
bad.
at our lads right now. So the depth chart is our lads has it. Is Carson's the 1,
My apologies.
Hyde's the 2,
Don't worry, Ryan.
Penny's
Walker
the
now,
3,
but Probably not.
DJ Dallas is the 4, Travis Homer's the 5, and then you have 2 guys who were undrafted, Patrick Carr and Anthony Jones as.
See, I think you could
6 and
probably
7.
flip Dallas and Homer. I mean, I know Homer was a 6th-round pick
Potentially.
2 years ago, but
Well, and the same thing with Penny. Like that, his spot's going to change there once the designation comes on him.
absolutely.
I mean,
Right.
granted, we just saw the video he posted the other day, but like, even if we got coming off ACL, like, yeah, the guys have gotten better coming back quickly, but it's a matter of not so much that the knee is stable. Does he trust his knee to make those moves? And it's more of a
Mental.
mentality aspect than it is a physical aspect. That's why
Hey,
I've been down on
remember-
Rashad Penny personally.
Remember that time the Seattle Seahawks took Rashad Penny instead of Nick Chubb? That was fun.
Remember when they passed on Jonathan Taylor this year?
Remember in the future when
was
they're going
fun.
to pass on Najee Harris and Travis Etienne?
Oh man.
Okay, so we'll stop torturing John here for a second. That was a question I wanted to pose because
I think Chris Carson has very underrated hands too. Like they're
Yeah.
not shy about using him in the pass.
He took over 50% of the RB targets last
Yeah.
year.
But
so-
how
which is nice.
how long till he fumbles 5 times in the first quarter of week 1 and then gets
They
benched?
don't care because they love
Yeah,
him.
they don't
didn't care
care.
about
I
it.
mean, they
Do
keep
not
trotting
care.
him out there. Like,
Oh, pile of
I mean,
garbage.
Chris Carson finished as RB as an RB1 last year as running back 12, I think, at the end of the
Yeah.
season in PPR.
It's unbelievable to me.
and
he
his
gets completely
draft
forgotten
spot
about
right
in
now
draft.
is just criminal. Like, it
He's
makes
one of the best
zero
values
sense
of the
to me.
running back
Yeah,
position for an
absolutely.
RB2. He has a
Absolutely.
fantastic floor as long as the hip is fine.
I can't bring myself to draft him. I don't know why. I think he just fumbles too much.
It's because you think like a coach, and you as a coach you don't want people to fumble.
But Josh, I would scoop up Adrian Peterson in his prime any day of the week.
oh, so
and
you're
he
just
had fumble
biased.
issues.
That's all. Okay.
But I was
No,
going to say,
I'm not
Derrick
biased at
Henry,
all.
Derrick Henry fumbled the ball 5 times last year, lost 3 of them. Melvin Gordon fumbled it 4 times in 12 games, lost 3 of them. But we don't hear people complaining about fumbles with them. It just seems to
Because-
stick with Carson.
Well, they have so
Because
much
Chris
volume. If you look
Carson-
like their fumble percentage, you don't even notice
Yeah.
it anymore.
yeah.
Well,
also
because
Carson
Chris-
carried the ball 278 times, only 25 less. That's what I'm saying.
But Chris Carson fumbles 3 times in a quarter. Like, didn't he fumble 3 times in week 1 of last year?
Yes.
I was going to say, yeah, it happens
Something like
in big burst games. I can see that, so they're more memorable.
It's unbelievable. It's 7
He
fumbles.
gets.
But that was even when they had
yips.
Rashad Penny fully healthy, and they still didn't even take
They
him off the
still
field.
didn't
Yes,
give up.
I don't.
He
get
just
it.
he gets the yips. Like when he puts the ball on the turf once, then
That's a bad game.
Yeah.
it's a bad game. Like he gets in his head about it, and
Sure.
it becomes a problem even more so. But they love Chris Carson. They love what he brings to that offense. They
do.
love the mentality, the approach. I know that Seattle really loves to allow people to compete, and whoever's best is going to get the gig. But when you've got a 7th round pick and Chris Carson beating out your 1st round pick, Rashad Penny, time and time and time again, Rashad Penny at this point just looks like a bust. Like it's just not going to happen for Rashad Penny. And he was a 1st round draft pick. The only skill player they've taken in the 1st round, I don't even remember how long it's been since they took a running back or a wide receiver. I'd have to go back. I'd have to look. It's been a minute since they took a skill player. And he's just,
his pain.
what is it?
I'm going to look it up just for your misery.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tommy. Good to see you, bud. Good having you.
I know
see
they've
you,
taken a
buddy.
couple like tweener linemen like towards the tail end, but a lot of times they've either traded their 1st round picks. Like I
So-
know the one year they traded
They
their
traded out, like,
Percy Harvin.
half-
So
Like,
I
half the
found
time
it.
They traded out.
I found it. So of first round picks, the last skill position offensive player that they took was back in 2002.
Yeah.
That was before
Any
Carroll.
any guesses to who it might be? This was we're going to end the show on this before we do a wrap up with a couple announcements here. 2002. It was pick 28 in the 1st round. He came out of Washington.
I
There-
looked it
if-
up, so I'll
if-
I can answer
abstain.
because I cheated, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan and Tommy are out. John or Josh, if any of you get this, I will Venmo you $200 because there's not a shot in
Cheat.
hell.
I
you
cheated. Never
know
mind. I'm
that
back in
this-
the game. Bro, that's White Claw money. I'm good to go now.
White Claw money.
There is No way.
Tommy, you have my phone number, right?
I'll
right.
look you up, man. We'll split it.
So I'll
Text
even
it,
give.
and I'll give you 100 of it.
I'll even give you the position.
I'd be careful with that.
He's a tight end. No guesses.
Oh, Daniel Graham.
No. Who? No.
Oh no, I know who it is, and I'm drawing the blank.
Jeremy
Jeremy. That was
Stevens.
Stevens.
I know that was around the tip of your tongue, guys. I know you almost had that.
Never
No, it
heard
was,
of him.
but the moment he said tight end and I put it with Washington, I knew it. I just got the player confused.
The one benefit of the doubt I will give the Seahawks is when you look at like their first round picks, they typically don't have them because they do trade back.
Yeah.
So if you look at like I'm gonna go back to 2014, they traded back. You have Paul Richardson. So
Well,
there
like,
you go. It's a
look
good
at-
one.
look at
2013,
their-
Christine Michael.
Look at their 2012 draft.
I love Christine Michael. Don't hate on him. I
Bruce
love
Irvin, Bobby
Christine
Wagner,
Michael.
Russell Wilson, Robert Turbin. Yeah, that was solid.
How about
weird.
how about their 2 first-round picks in 2010? Russell Okung and Earl Thomas. How about that?
That'll work.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then go
That'll
look at
help,
2011 where you've got KJ Wright where they took him in the 4th round pick, and then
What
Richard
value?
Sherman in the 5th.
Wasn't James
Sherman
Carpenter a
the fifth.
decent offensive guard as well out of Alabama?
He was
Yeah,
all right.
they
yeah.
drafted him as a
He was
tackle though.
Yeah.
I mean, but like
Bama
you look at
offensive
So
line, I
here's
mean, that's gonna
here's
get
the
you.
thing about Seattle and about John Schneider. He struck gold in 2012,
yes,
And he's been living off of it.
and they did well in 2013. And since then, there hasn't been a single first round pick that has panned out. Not one. Not a one. He's traded out like half the time, traded back, and gotten some decent players out of it that way. But it seems like they're way better at evaluating late round value than they are at just picking fucking blue chips. Like, get your blue Patrick Queen. You like they took another running back instead of Patrick Queen out of LSU, and Baltimore's like,
we'll take that.
thanks. Thank you. We'll take him. And like they ran to the proverbial podium and took Patrick Queen. It doesn't like stop getting too cute, Schneider. Like take the blue chips that are there. Stop thinking that you're evaluating these guys that are from like low end Division 1 or Division 2 schools and thinking that they're blue chips. It's like, you know what I would love? I'd love for you to get some guys out of the SEC.
Battle tested, man.
Anyone. SEC, Big Ten. Give me someone from Power 5 that has played against players that are going to be playing on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, just go get those guys.
Yeah,
Patrick
because
Queen is the
Pac-12
biggest
defenders,
whiff.
not that good.
No,
So-
they're
Big 12
not.
defender,
No, they're
not that good.
So the last 2 guys they've drafted from the SEC, 2011, James Carpenter, offensive guard out of Alabama.
Went okay.
2000, running back Sean Alexander out of Alabama.
My boy, my
Matt
Sean
Cover.
Alexander.
Those are the last 2
Yeah.
SEC players
Yeah.
that they drafted as I'm looking through this right here. They've drafted
Which is kind of
some-
amazing given how much the SEC dominates the
that's
NFL draft,
insane.
especially the first 3 rounds. Like,
Yes,
that's
and-
normally all SEC you see
and-
percentage wise.
And that is both. Okay, so Jermaine Ifedi from Texas A&M. 2016, they were
That's
in
Big
the
12.
SEC, correct?
That's Big
2016.
12.
No, they switched to the SEC at that point, didn't they?
Missouri did.
A&M, right? Wasn't Johnny
Yeah,
Football's?
Texas A&M and Missouri both moved
Yeah.
into the SEC.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
so
you're right.
I can't remember what year it was, but
I think it was the year Johnny Football when they moved into the SEC, or was
Yeah,
the
it
year
was.
after Johnny Football when they moved into the SEC. But Jermaine Ifedi. But you look at it, it's like, okay, Texas A&M is not an SEC school. They're a Big 12 school. So the last two guys they took were from Bama, and they were Sean Alexander, who is
A goat.
all-timer, love him,
Yeah.
and then James Carpenter. But you're looking at like some of their first-round picks: Wake Forest, Southern California, TCU,
Aaron Curry
Texas Tech, West Virginia. It's like Bruce Irvin panned out. I'll give him that. But again, you're looking at just like Texas. Like you're just looking at like organizations, and maybe in 04 Texas was still good, but you're looking at colleges where That's not where perennial first-round NFL talent comes from. Perennial first-round NFL talent lives in the SEC.
He's not trying to wake up at 9 a.m. to watch those games.
No.
Hey, remember that one time that an SEC running back named Nick Chubb was available and they took a guy from San Diego State?
Remember that one time when Wisconsin running back was available with Jonathan Taylor and you didn't pick him either?
Takes the headphones off, leaves.
He mentioned Big Ten. I'm just throwing him out there too.
Wow.
Like, I don't want him to feel excluded.
Wow. We invite Tommy to only ruin John's night. And it's only 8:00 where John is. There's still plenty of time to down a few more whiskeys.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's 9. It's 9.
It's 9
Oh,
o'clock. 3-hour difference.
Oh, correct. Sorry. I'm in Central. Thought I was
This
still in
was
Eastern
spur of the
time.
moment. I didn't even prepare for this or anything. I could have had flashcards ready. I mean, all of this.
John.
Speaking of Tommy, thanks for hopping on with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I saw it on the Twitter feed. I saw you guys went live, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go in the comments and all that stuff and kind of see what's going on. All of a sudden, I get the email, and I'm like, hey, you want to jump on? Absolutely.
John, anything to say for our surprise guest that joined you tonight?
You're dead to me.
We brought them together and then apparently split them up.
This is
your beard needs work.
It truly is the Tinder of fantasy football podcast. They had a one-night stand on the first podcast, and now John ghosted him. Tommy comes back to life, and now they hate each other. It's as simple as that.
You don't know how much of my life you just summed up with that. Honestly, that hit way too close to home.
Oh, man.
Tommy Garrett, my life is like Tinder. Okay. All right, so before we wrap up here, if you've been staying tuned to the Club Fantasy FFL social handles, you've seen, and we've talked about this, Women in Fantasy Football is coming in the month of August. We've already highlighted 3 guests hopping on. Josh, correct me if I say any of their names incorrectly. Casey Kasem of Kasem, thank you. Fighting Chance Fantasy. Samantha Holt of Fantasy Focused.
Love
and
Sam.
Jen Pianchetti?
Piacenti.
I'm not gonna correct
Piacenti.
you.
Okay, I was going with Italian maybe. Piacenti. Sorry, Jen, if you're listening. We'll get it. We'll talk beforehand, making sure we get this correct. But she's of Fantasy Alarm. So those are just 3 of 9 guests, Josh?
Yeah. Actually,
I love what you guys are doing with this.
We've confirmed a 10th, and
Ooh.
let me tell you, we're holding that one until they actually come on the show. But let me tell you, it is going to make the entire event, and we've got some huge names that are coming on, and one of the biggest ones we're announcing on Friday. It's going to be awesome. You guys do not want to miss these shows. It is going to be so much fun. Huge shout out to Faith and Stepmom Lauren for taking over and hosting these shows. Ryan and Faith have essentially booked all of these guests.
Yep.
It has been so much fun just putting this whole thing together and doing everything that we're doing behind the scenes and drawing some attention to women in the fantasy football industry, because I feel like it's something that needs to show some light on it.
Women in sports in general. And John,
Exactly.
we know you guys, Red Shirts, partnered with Ball Blast.
Yeah, and that's something that I just want to touch on real quick. Completely agree with that entire sentiment. Red Shirts Fantasy Football Podcast, we just partnered up with the Ball Blast girls, Michelle and Kate Majuk, to form one brand where we're housing our multiple podcasts underneath that one umbrella. We've got one website, ballblastfootball.com. It's fantastic having kind of a larger team like this. We've got, the 5 of us at the head of it. We have 8 staff writers under us. We're putting out an article or 2 every day during the week right now, 2 to 3 podcasts. Actually, I think we're closer to about 4 podcasts a week between the 2 of us right now that we're putting out. But just to touch on that kind of topic, it's so important. It's absolutely crucial. I think I know we're running really long here, but it's so important to talk about.
It's okay, because it's worth saying.
Yes.
Perfect. Especially with everything that just kind of came to light about the formerly Washington Redskins football team, everything going on inside that organization, this systemic sexual harassment that was taking place inside that organization. And there's so much that women in professional sports, whether it's in the organizations or in reporting or in whatever capacity that they hold, they face so much more stuff than I think 90% of us are aware of.
And even though Washington has came out, like, we would all be naive to think that is a single organization. Like, this
it's
is a
not
problem across the industry.
Yes.
This is across the industry as a whole. I mean, when you have an organization that is saying that the women inside the organization are literally having to hold like basically a secondary training to tell new women employees, don't go to this place, don't walk up this staircase because it's clear and they can look up, avoid these people. It's just absolutely garbage. The amount of harassment that they face on an in-person basis, and then the remarks of discrediting and just absolutely crapping on these women online, people hiding behind a keyboard, bashing them, just like, stay in just all of the sexist comments that come at these people. It's grotesque. If you're in a position to support women in sports in any capacity, as a fan, if you own a business, if you run a podcast, whatever it is, please do so. Mm-hmm. Step up, give them the opportunity, validate them, show that they know what they're talking about. Kate and Michelle that I work with, they like to put out some takes that kind of go against the grain a little bit sometimes, but I promise you, every single thing that they tweet or say or write about or podcast about, they have researched until their fingers bleed. They do so much research on analytics, on stats, watching film. They put so much effort into what they do, and they know what they're talking about. And to discredit them just for being women is naive and, quite frankly, R-rated.
Ignorant.
It's complete bullshit, and it needs to stop. Yep. So please support women in sports in any capacity that you can. We are thrilled to be partnering with those two. They know their stuff. They bring great content to the brand that we're all pushing forward, and we're thrilled about that opportunity. And I will absolutely be tuning in on all of these women in fantasy football posts that you guys are doing, all these podcasts that are coming up.
Hell yeah. And to add on to that, someone that I know just from working in sports in general, on the team side and on the agency side, one of my connections, Sydney, she's created a Twitter page called Support Women in Sports. It's at Support W Sports. The first letter of every word, including that W, is capitalized. So give them a follow on there. But something they had just tweeted out just under an hour ago was a poll asking, ladies, have you ever experienced harassment while working in or competing in sports? Out of 216 votes, 77% of them said yes. So this is something that just John kind of summed it up. I won't even dive into it any more than we need to, but John summed it up to a T. Unacceptable, shouldn't happen. These women have the exact same right, privilege, whatever you want to call it, as men do to be in this industry, to do exactly what we do. We're all anyone can have an opinion. My ass has an opinion. I don't do any freaking research. So like
we know.
Yeah, I don't do any research. Mine is all opinion based and what I see with my eyes. John said Kate and Michelle will sit in front of their laptops, computers, whatever it is, and they're going to meticulously research every little thing so that way when you try and trash them on the internet, they make sure that they're backed up. But it's like like any of us on here, we could say whatever we want, but 9 times out of 10, we're probably not going to get that backlash. But
no.
If a female said the exact same thing, they're going to, start throwing these random questions out there. It's like, what do you mean? Back it up, blah, blah, blah. It shouldn't be that way.
And worse than that is, and the one thing that drives me nuts is nobody's ever attacked my ugly butt for my looks. And they go after these girls' looks.
Ryan.
And I'm like, come on. Are you serious? Like, this isn't about fantasy football anymore because you can't beat their points in fantasy football. So you have to try to make it personal. But like I said, we've been talking about this forever and we'll talk about it a lot more. But that's the part that drives me nuts is you're not even coming at them for their fantasy takes anymore. And that's where it gets ridiculous. So
it does. And
bye, Tommy.
Yeah,
I was
Tommy.
gonna say, I guess we lost Tommy.
Tommy DC'd. So for Tommy, I will say you can follow Tommy. Oh, there he is. He's back.
There he's back.
You can follow Tommy at Tommy Garrett PFN. Thank you for joining late in the show here, Tommy. John, they can follow you at Dynasty Beard. And where can they find your Red Shirts and Ball Blast podcast?
Yeah, everything is housed at ballblastfootball.com. You can find the links to both podcasts, all of our articles, consensus rankings, our Patreon. There's so much content, and it's continuously growing. We'd love for you to join us. A lot of really good things in the works, some really great tools that we're excited to be kind of developing and putting out there hopefully over the next couple months. It's going to be good stuff. We're really, really having a lot of fun over there.
You can follow Ryan at the Fantasy 5, Josh at the One Hud Sodi, and myself, Joe_Zolo, and you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Stay tuned to the social channels because I don't even know who we're announcing on Friday. I'm going to find this out after we finish recording, so I'm excited and giddy like a kid on Christmas.
Hey, same!
Oh, yes. I'm so excited. You can, if you're listening to the podcast or listening on 97.3 Sunshine Jams in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, you want to interact with us, you want to listen, watch the live recording of the show. It happens Wednesday nights. We did do a later recording tonight, just simply because we have our buddy John over on the West Coast. We got to accommodate here, but most nights going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern PM. Please join us live, interact with us. We'll answer any of your questions live on the show. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. Next week, we have the Baltimore Ravens, Tennessee Titans, and Green Bay Packers with Nate Hamilton.
Ooh, my boy!
Oh, baby, it's going to be a good
Ready
one.
to get
Stay
Nate
tuned.
on.
And we will see you next week.
Later, guys.